Again, thank you so much for all the various comments. JPO Neil 2151 points out about the GB News nastiness and the ridiculing of Alex de Koning by Bev Thingamy and Pierce, what's his name? Those non-entity news anchors. JPO Neil says she wouldn't even have the ability to vote if it wasn't for Mrs. Pankhurst disrupting the Derby. Well, you know, I think that needs to be put into perspective, because during the suffragettes' activity, 5 people died. There were bombs. There was an attack on the jewel house of the Tower of London, sabotage, the Grand National, the smashing art galleries. These were extreme protests, and because they were so extreme, they made people sit back and take notice. Now, the problem with Just Stop Oil is that it's using less extreme ways to protest, thank God. But it's an inconvenience, and it's using hackneyed systems which were set out really throughout the 19th century into the 20th century, and I think they're out of date. I think they do nothing but cause inconvenience. They don't arouse the Just Stop Oil campaign as a serious issue, particularly given the fact that the government has already identified climate change as an emergency. That's the official position. So in order to harness the urgency of this issue, I think we need to find a new way to protest. The word protest, and this is what makes the Home Office so ridiculous. The word protest means to shout. I protest my innocence. I shout my innocence. That's a very good example of the original meaning of that word, from which we get the word Protestant. The Protestants were people who shouted, who declaimed the Bible from street corners. They weren't people who objected to Catholicism. That's a secondary meaning. The idea of protesting as an objection, that's secondary. The primary meaning is to shout, and you shout your objection and you shout your concerns. So it's impossible to have a quiet protest. But equally, I think if you want to get your voice heard, it's not on the street corner now. It's in social media. It's on the pages of a book, or a magazine, or a newspaper. It's on television. And I think we need to rethink the tactics. Do the tactics justify the cause? So in the long run, you're quite right. Bev Thingamy wouldn't be in this position where she can ridicule somebody if it hadn't been for the suffragettes. And people would say, perhaps, that the extreme tactics of the suffragettes justified their activity because the cause was just. History rates the suffragettes as heroic. I don't think history will take the same view of the Just Stop Oil people, because they are not innovative. And I think in the long term, they're not being effective. To get your voice out, you need to think of new ways of doing things. And slow marching down the street, it's been done. Gluing yourself to the street, done. I mean, these are talking points, but are we seriously discussing the climate change? No, we're not. We're discussing the absurdity of these actions, which are an inconvenience. Climate change is probably one of the greatest issues facing us, and we need an innovative and creative way to discuss the way forward. I think we have the message, but we don't have any plan. And it's the plan we need. We need the discussion. We need to engage. And we need to engage with these people, and we need to look at the real facts and move the planet and ourselves forwards.